Finance Committee for November 16th. Motion to approve previous minutes.
So moved.
Mr. Kraus, second. Mr. Clay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. We'll table 1 through 5. Sponsors aren't here. Number 6, authorizing conveyance of real property at 6 Maple Avenue in the town of Colony. Any questions? Motion to move it. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Miller, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Number 7, authorizing conveyance of real property at 783 Woodstock Road in the town of Bern. Yes, Paul?
The question now, why are we selling this for just $1,000? And this is, I assume this is in Camp Woodstock, is that correct? It just seems like, you know, when you look at the assessment, the amount of taxes that we paid in town Bern, $5,400 in taxes. Is that correct?
Yeah, but we do that all the time, Paul, when there's properties that are in disrepair, especially throughout the city. We have properties that have taxes on it that are $30,000, $40,000, and properties that are worth about $500.
I understand that city.
Yeah, this property, these buildings are just ready. Look at the pictures. You can see.
No, I understand. It's a trailer.
Yeah, it's a trailer. That's why. Any other questions? Motion to move it. Mr. Mackey, second. Is there a second? Mr. Clay? Second, please?
Second.
Second, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Number 8, authorize conveyance of real property in the town of Guilderland to the town of Guilderland. Any questions? Motion to move it. Mr. Grimm, second. Mr. Miller, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Number 9, amending Resolution 526 regarding construction management services for Time Union Center Atrium Project. Any questions? Motion to move it. Mr. Miller, second. Mr. Kraus, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Bond resolutions. As you can see, there's a number of projects between lighting, some heating and air conditioning, and different major projects that are in the capital plan that we're putting together for bonding all at once. So we don't have to go out individually for these bonds. We put them all together, and it's a lot less expensive to do it that way. Are there any questions on that? Mr. Kraus?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These were all part of the capital plan, weren't they?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller?
We're doing LED lighting in this building, but not in the courthouse, is that correct?
It's already done. It's already done.
I can speak to that. We've already started with a lot of the lighting over there with the small lighting, just doing that offhand as we're changing the bulbs over there. We've been putting in LED lighting in a lot of the chandeliers and a lot of the outlighting as we go in that part of this project. DGS.
Any other questions? Motion to move it?
Motion.
Mr. Mackey, I'm sorry, Mr. Clay, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Number 11, authorizing an agreement with equipment rental, purchase the resident room furnitures for the nursing home. Any questions? Motion to move it? Mr. Miller, second. Mr. Mackey, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 12, authorizing an agreement regarding internship program at the University of Albany and Stormwater Coalition. Any questions? Motion to move it?
It's amended version.
Motion to move, Mr. Mackey, second.
Thank you.
Mr. Clay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Number 13, proposals of additions and deletions for 2017 tentative annual budget. Everybody has the handout in front of them.
This is information that was requested during the budget process. We're going to pass out. One is the Cornell information.
There's some information here that'll be passed out that was requested during the budget hearings. Cornell was one of them, and
About the health department budget and the dentists.
Health Department and the dentist, that was requested. Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to thank you and the others who were involved in providing us ahead of time so that those of us who are on the committee have had an opportunity to review it. Appreciate that. And I hope that continues in the future.
It will continue. And it was also on our webpage since Monday, so that everyone throughout Albany County and the world can review it. So we'll get started. These will be the changes of additions and deletions, starting with the Sheriff's Department. Motion to approve the Sheriff's as amended. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr.
Second.
Clay, all in favor? Opposed?
No.
Mr. Grimm, thank you.
So what's
Next would be the county clerk. Motion to approve as amended. Mr. Mackey, second by Mr. Miller, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Unanimous. Next would be the comptroller. Motion to approve as amended. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr.
Second.
Clay, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. District Attorney, motion to approve as amended. Mr. Miller, second. Mr. Mackey, all in favor? Opposed?
No.
Mr. Grimm, thank you. County Attorney, motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Mr. Clay, second. Mr. Mackey, all in favor? Yes, Mr.
Speak to that.
Grimm.
Yeah, I am opposed to this decrease. I think the county attorney made a sufficient case for giving an increase for this longtime employee, so I am opposed to the decrease.
Thank you. Second? Mr. Mackey, all in favor? Opposed?
No?
Thank you. Public Defender, approve as amended. Mr. Miller, second. Mr. Clay,
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Alternate Public Defender will just pass as presented. Motion to approve. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Clay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Amended. Nursing Home, motion to approve as amended.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
I have a
Kraus.
question before we move
Yes.
forward. I see we're reducing the supervising nurse and both supervising nurses from 71 to 61. Would we have perhaps an explanation as to,
Well, we're reducing two, and they're promoting two.
so we're going to use,
Which one? Larry, you want to explain that briefly?
the reduction of those two salaries from 71 to 61
Supervising
for
nurses.
supervising?
I think it was submitted at 7-1, and that didn't include the increase because of the $10,000 line. So this was, at least that's what I think.
Oh, yeah, when we created the supervisor line, we put in 10,000 as a placeholder, and once we knew we found someone, we had to come back with an RLA to get the correct amount, and then do away with another RN position to top of the funding. So it's really at 71, which is the new rate, would be 71,050, but it only was funded for 10, we did away with an RN to fully fund it. So it really will be the full amount of 71,000 and change. We're not decreasing it. Did I explain that right?
Is that,
Are there any other questions?
He increased the grade.
Mr. Chairman, are you okay with this?
Well, the salary's gonna be $71,050.
There's 10,000 already in the line currently.
So we're funding the rest of it. What we did is when we created those titles, we didn't fully fund it because the dollars weren't there. So we put a $10,000 placeholder, so it's 10,000 already there. Now, we have a person for that position because there was a span for those titles with NYSA that we could pay someone from X dollar to Y dollar. Once we hired them and we knew the amount, then we would fund it to that amount.
so if we were to leave the 71 in there, we'd be overfunding it by
Right.
$10,000?
Correct.
So you're okay with these changes?
Yes.
then? Okay.
Thank
Any
you,
other
Mr.
questions?
Thank
We're
you for the
clear?
clarification. We are
Okay,
clear.
motion approved as amended. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Clay, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Good job.
Aging, motion to approve as presented. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Miller, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Human Resources, motion to approve. Mr. Mackey, as presented. Second, Mr. Miller, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Social,
Yep.
Civic Center.
Civil service.
Civil
I'm sorry,
service?
Civil Service. Motion
Can we
approved.
just group these, or you want to have no changes in there?
You guys want to group, it's fine by me. Motion to group Civil Service, Social Services, Mental Health, Children's Services, Board of Elections, Crime Victims, altogether, they are all be passed as presented, the budget was presented. Mr. Miller,
I'll make that motion.
motion,
I'll
second?
second it.
Mr. Clay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? On all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, motion to approve. Mr. Miller, second by Mr. Clay, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Planning Department, motion to approve as amended. Mr. Mackey, second?
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir,
Yeah, could
Mr.
I,
Mackey.
can I explanation for this line correction, because this number also appears later subsequently as an increase, I believe?
Yes, we took the 125,000 out of that line, and moved it into the other line, and kept the 125 in this line. That's why you see it twice.
So it's,
We're not sure, we want to make sure we have the monies available, but yet have yet designated.
so it's revenue neutral then, it's the same?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. Mr. Fitch,
I'm curious, do we know yet what the economic cultural development money is going to go towards?
it'll be going towards economic development within Albany County. Nothing specific yet, it's out there.
Okay.
Whatever is spent will
Yeah.
have to come to this body to be approved anyway.
Okay,
So,
just curious.
Yeah.
Some, a little vague, just the title doesn't really explain the specifics, so,
that's what it's going to be for.
okay.
Any other questions? Motion to approve as amended. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Clay, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Health Department, motion to approve as presented. Mr. Miller, second by Mr. Mackey, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? DPW, motion to approve as amended. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Clay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, unanimous. Stormwater consolidation, a motion to approve as amended. Coalition. Mr. Mackey, second by Mr. Kraus, thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Probation, motion to approve as presented. Mr. Mackey, second, Mr. Clay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, unanimous. General Services, motion to approve as presented. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Kraus, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. County Executive, motion to approve as presented. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Clay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Commissioner of Management and Budget, motion to approve as amended. Do you have a question, Mr. Kraus?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
And since we have the budget director here, my question to you the other night when you were presenting this was that there was a different amount in the budget, and you said you were willing and happy to go with a lower amount. Is that correct?
I did say that, yes.
You did say that. And I assume that based upon that, that's why this reduction is in there.
Correct.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Any other questions? Motion to move as amended.
Move
Mr.
it.
Clay, second by Mr. Miller, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Coroners, motion to approve as presented. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Clay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Recreation Department, motion to approve as amended. Any questions? Motion to move it. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr.
Second.
Clay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Sewer District, motion to approve as presented. Mr. Miller, second by Mr. Kraus, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Cornell Cooperative Extension, motion to approve as amended. Mr. Kraus, second. Mr. Mackey, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Soil and Water District, motion to approve as amended. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Clay, thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Civic Center, motion to approve as, we got it.
Yes,
Civic Center, motion to approve as presented.
Motion.
Mr. Clay, second. Mr. Miller, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Yes. Veteran Bureau, motion to approve as amended.
Question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Kraus.
The reductions, are we reducing the salaries of these two veteran service officers?
The salaries weren't correct in the budget. These are to adjust the correct salaries that are budgeted.
Okay. So there's
So
no
there was a
reduction in
typo.
anyone's salary?
No.
Thank you,
No?
Mr. Chairman.
No? Any other questions? Motion to approve?
Motion.
Mr. Clay, second. Mr. Mackey, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Legislature. Motion to approve as amended. Mr. Mackey, second.
I have a
Yes,
question,
Mr. Kraus.
Chairman. Could you just elaborate once again on these numbers? I believe it's a 2% increase, is that correct?
2% increase was passed last year by the legislature. Actually, it should have been in the budget. It was not, so we're putting it in now, but it was passed last year by resolution for the term of this body that it's 2%, or whatever the non-union workers are getting.
And you got if you recall, you got a letter from the management budget requesting that we increase.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Motion to move, Mr. Clay, second. Mr. Mackey, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Yes.
I'm opposed.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kraus. Mr. Graham? Contingency account, motion to approve as amended. Mr. Miller, second by Mr. Mackey, all in favor?
I have a few questions
Opposed?
for
Yes, Mr. Graham.
What, do we know how much we spent on this account in the previous year?
Off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
It should be in your budget book.
You know what?
This is miscellaneous contractual expenses, so these are expenses that we're not sure that we're going to incur
Right.
in 2017?
Yes.
So we have a cushion?
And so it's in the contingency account, so that's available, but we may not need it. So far this year, because the sales tax revenues are up and, revenues are up, we don't need it. But there has been years, at this time, we used to have to dig into contingency, the balance of budget, because you would anticipate what sales tax revenues were. So
Does this money have to be spent on contractual arrangements?
you decide how it's spent. Everything in contingency account would be done by resolution through the legislature.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Kraus?
Just a clarification on that, so even approving this, you would still have to have it come back to the legislature for
Yes.
approval of any expenses out of this.
Yes. Yep. Mr. Burgo?
Only because we happened to get into this a couple of nights ago. Is this the contingency account when nobody could quite identify where the $50,000 for Trinity was going to come from?
Yes, there's a perfect example.
Okay, so how much did we budget for the contingency account last year?
It's in the budget.
It's in the budget.
It's in the book.
Yeah. What page?
We have 431,000. So we had 431,000. Was the only expenditure out of the account the $50,000?
I would have to look at the whole AIS and see if we have done anything other than that this year.
Okay, but that's countywide, the one big,
Yes.
that's countywide. So is that saying that we budgeted $425,000 last year and we're only budgeting $125,000 this year?
Yes.
So we're reducing our contingency
For this coming year, yes.
by over $300,000.
What it looks like, yes, but it was $200,000 for contractual expenses and $231,000 for new positions that were put into the contingency. It appears-
Okay, but this contingency, once again, is for both contractual and personal service?
I believe this is only for contractual, that's what it says here, and it matches the 2016 as contractual.
There's a question down here as to whether or not the amount shown for contractual services is true just for contractual services and not for personal services.
Contractual.
It's all contract, it's all contract.
It's a different line.
Not personal services.
I have a question. Sean, does the money roll over that wasn't spent in the contingency fund for the next year?
I believe sometimes
Yes.
it's encumbered. Yes.
So we have a big pot of money from...
I don't know if it's big on a $650 million budget.
But it's certainly-
And I've seen years that one time, we've always had $1 million in it one time, so, it's
But last
lower
year-
than what it normally is.
Mr. Chairman, I'm speaking for myself, I would like to understand what our contingency is. Obviously,
Yeah.
we have fund balances, which we identify, and we have a target to reach the fund balances, but in addition to that, if we can't answer that question here today...
He just told you 461.
461 for 2016.
431.
430.
Okay, but we're only budgeting 125 for next year?
Plus the
So we're
encumbered.
Plus the
reducing...
encumbered.
Plus we're encumbering with the 461.
Okay.
This is in
So there's
addition. It's additional.
Words
So
in
be,
the legislature would be
yeah,
called a
it'd be like, what,
reappropriation.
500,
Well,
maybe close to 500.
We call it encumbering.
Okay. So, but it's unencumbered without specific encumbrance.
At the present time, a great part
So
of
there's
this...
431 and 125,000 in new dollars
That's
would be
correct.
available for the contingency for next year.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Because we didn't have to draw off of
Exactly.
31, we're only asking for an additional 1.5.
that's right.
Kind of cushion ourselves.
Yeah. Any other questions? Sam? Any other questions? Motion to approve? Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Clay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Mr. Clay, thank you. The G account, motion to approve as amended. Mr. Clay, second by Mr. Mackey, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. The A account is the personal service savings account, and a motion to approve as amended. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Miller, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Look at all these revenue accounts that we have on that last page. Any questions? Motion to approve as amended. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr.
Yes.
Clay? Yes, Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are these increases in revenue, or these are decreases?
Increases.
Increases, are these increases applied elsewhere in these additions and deletions?
The money was budgeted previously for the money was previously budgeted, the grants and these funds came in after the budget was done, so the money had already been budgeted, so this is money that's taking the place of some money that's in the budget, and now that money's available for this account. I think that's the simplest way to explain it, isn't it?
Yeah. So the initial offset with like a lot of this grant funding, when we sent the letter out, you would have seen it against the 2% raises that was due the...
Any questions? Motion to approve. Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Clay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you. Motion adjourned. Mr. Clay, second. Mr. Mackey, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much for all your time.